Thanks. How's it going?
Going great. It's always hard having a Monday after a holiday weekend, but we made it through.
And that is the truth. That is the truth. So I'm so glad that you reached out to me on TikTok because I absolutely was obsessed with the little, I don't know what you call that, like infographic PDF, whatever it is that you generated for me. And then also the fact that you started talking about the new paradigm. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, new paradigm.
New paradigm. Wow, I'm losing it. Okay. So all of that is so exciting to me and I can't wait to get into all of it. But first, I want to get into who you are and how you got into human design and what that is.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm so excited I came across your TikTok. I've been wanting to do podcasts and share human design and get it out to more people because it is, as you saw, such a potent, amazing system to transform your life. So I came to human design because I was in my early 20s, very lost, looking for purpose, especially in my career, but just in life in general. So I had gone down a huge rabbit hole of listening to a ton of self-help podcasts, reading self-help books. I was searching for answers anywhere and everywhere, and I came across the podcast That's So Retrograde, and they had Jenna Zoe, who is a human design reader, on, and as soon as she started talking about the system, I was like, oh my god, this is what I've been missing. I had previously been into astrology and tarot. I've always kind of been, since I was a kid, I've always been dialed into the spiritual world and spiritual systems, but something about human design made it just click for me. So to give you some context, human design is a system that has roots in astrology. It also has roots in the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah, Tree of Life, and the chakra system. And basically how it came to be, kind of weird, the Sky in the 80s went on a week-long trip in Ibiza and basically was in a meditative state for a couple days and downloaded the system.
Ibiza, okay.
Yeah.
First person ever, only person ever.
Right. So he just downloaded this whole system from a source or God or the universe, whoever it is, and put it out into the world and started teaching about it and all of that. So it's a fairly new system. Most people haven't heard about it unless you've come across it on a podcast or TikTok or something like that. And it goes hand in hand with astrology. I like to say astrology is more of the macro and human design is more of the micro. Human design reading I sent over for you, your chart tells you a blueprint of how to use your energy. So it gets way more specific to the individual. Not that astrology isn't. Astrology I think of as more weather patterns, themes in your life, bigger picture things. And human design is a lot about you as an individual and how to use that energy.
I love that. And I feel like that resonated so deeply with me when you sent me over, I guess chart is definitely a better word than infographic or PDF, when you sent over my chart. So for all of you listening, I'm 26 and I have been going through a lot of career crises and doing a lot of what you just said, Morrie, of going to find self-help books, self-help podcasts, trying to find answers to things that I'm not really sure of, and that I feel like there's something that's existential, but also something that's so internal that it's difficult to grasp your mind around. And I really fell into tarot, and I really fell into how you can take something away from something that might seem so abstract and have it resonate so deeply with you. And so human design, when you sent over your about me section and then also getting into reading the chart, it was so wild to see how accurate it was. So all I had to do was put in information about where I was born, what time I was born, and was there any other information that you needed for it?
The place you were born. Yeah, I guess you said where. But yeah, basically your birthday. And just for anyone listening, your exact birth time is really important because it can change by the minute. So go look at your birth certificate, ask your mom. Don't guess because it truly can change by the minute.
That's crazy. And it makes so much sense because it's how everything in the universe aligns and how your body aligns, and everything is so connected. And I feel like as I've gotten older, there's been more and more evidence of that. And this human design chart just gave me more evidence into everything being so deeply connected. So breaking down what that chart really displays. So I'm a manifesting generator, which it seems like you attract a lot of those in your life.
Yeah, I definitely do.
When I was reading through your website, it was a lot of reviews from manifesting generators, and I'm like, is that a stereotype of a manifesting generator to go and have your human design chart created? Or is this something that her aura just attracts?
That's a good question. It's probably a little bit of both. To give you the full context of all the different types. So human design, your energy type is kind of the most overarching entry point to your chart. So there are 5 different types. There's manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. Manifesting generators are about 35% of the population, so it is one of the more common types, but I do really attract manifesting generators. I love manifesting generator energy. My fiance is an MG. My cousin, who is like one of my best friends, is an MG. My mom's an MG. My sister's an MG. A lot of the closest people in my life somehow are just MGs, and it's so funny. But yeah, when I was listening to you go through your timeline of like all the different careers you tried, and you randomly did a dude ranch stint and then you went back into corporate, I was like, she's got to be a manifesting generator, because that's very true to being an MG. Is just like, MGs are here to try a bunch of different things. You have anyone who's a generator and a manifesting generator, you have a defined sacral center, which is creativity, life force energy, and the rest of us types, the projectors, manifestors, and reflectors, we feed off of that energy. So all generators are truly here to be in the spaces that light them up and energize them, be doing the things, having the careers that light them up. And then MGs, the little caveat there is manifesting generators get bored very easily, and there can be a lot of conditioning around like you have to finish what you start. Mm-hmm. But for your energy, what's best for an MG is to really like try a bunch of different things, have multiple projects or hobbies or jobs. Like you have your main job, your side hustle, your passion project. That is super correct for an MG, and sometimes it takes a little deconditioning to find that, but I think MGs too can be attracted to human design and it can click for them really quickly, because it's like, okay, this is what I do and I've been working against it my whole life, but here's this like giant permission slip telling me that that's actually the best way I can be managing my energy.
Yeah, and that for me felt like such positive affirmation for how I've been going about my career, if you will. And my brother, I don't know what he is. He's probably a projector, if I had to guess, just based on my limited Google search of what each one of them are. But he called my dad the other day and he's like, I'm really worried about Sarah. She doesn't have a career. And my dad's like, she's fine. Like, she's doing what works for her. And this was all before like my knowledge of human design and understanding like that we all have different modes of what works for us. And obviously that makes sense. Like I've worked in corporate America. I'm like an ENTJ or whatever that is that they make you take in like all of your first weeks in corporate to try and figure out what your personality type is. But this is beyond that. This goes further of like what is deeply rooted inside of you and what you were born with. And I also think it's funny because in my research beforehand, I was like, okay, let me see if like some of my role models are also like manifesting generators. And so I looked up Reese Witherspoon's like manifesting generator. I looked up Alona Mayer, manifesting generator. I was like, okay, this is adding up. This is making sense for me. So with manifesting generators, I feel like I have always felt that I bop around from thing to thing very quickly, but I'm so convinced that this next thing is going to be for me. And it is never a doubt in my mind that things are going to work out for me, or that the path that I'm going down isn't right, or anything like that. It's always been with deep conviction, and that everything that I'm going to do is working out for me. And it's also, like what you said, I'm doing multiple things at once. Like, I wrote down my priorities list earlier today, actually, and it was like marathon training, podcast, and French fluency. And, like, none of those are a small undertaking. Each one of those are a large undertaking. And so I feel like what you had not prescribed in the chart, but what you had given to me in the chart of, this is what a manifesting generator is, this is how you typically act in certain scenarios. I was like, wow, yeah. That's so right.
Yeah, it's so funny because even all of the other types, everyone who I give a reading to or just like tell them about their chart, they immediately are like, oh my God, this is so accurate. Like, I've never had the experience of someone like, I don't know, I don't really resonate with that. And maybe I just haven't had enough of them yet, but that is kind of what motivates me and keeps me going, because it's tough starting a business, especially because I work full-time corporate as well. But what keeps me going is, like, people, when they get this information, it can truly change the trajectory of their lives. And there aren't very many people out there who are like me, who are really focused on career paths. There's a lot of people who are focused on like entrepreneurship and the business world, but I come from a recruiting background and I'm in HR now, so I'm really passionate about applying it to like everyone's career. But yeah, it's scary accurate, and the information that I gave you is just kind of scratching the surface. It goes even deeper than that.
Yeah, and I feel like scratching the surface of the itch that so many 20-somethings and like even 30-somethings and 40-somethings are grappling with, of this is, and maybe it's just where I'm at in my algorithm on TikTok and Instagram, but everyone is at this point of, I'm tired of just being a cog. I want to do things that are more for me. And I think that's why you see the rise in wanting to become an influencer, because there's a lot of autonomy in that. There's a lot of creativity in that. And you can really do what you want with that. And I feel like not everyone wants to be an influencer. I definitely do not want to be an influencer. That's a lot. But it really, I think that that's really just getting to the surface of everyone's internal desire of wanting autonomy, of wanting creativity. But there's such a limit to, okay, well, what does that look like right now? How do we find that? And that where you come in is so powerful, because you might be able to unlock a career path that you hadn't initially thought of, that you were like, I don't know if that'd be for me. Like, for me, my dad told me, engineering is what you will do. So engineering is what I did do. Engineering is what I do. And I have to say, my itch isn't being scratched, and I have to believe that my human design chart would also reflect that that is not the correct choice for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to make a couple points. So with the rise of people kind of waking up and realizing they don't want to be a cog in the wheel, and like how society has been set up isn't really working for these younger generations, that is fully the new paradigm that is coming to fruition. So human design has this concept called the new paradigm, which basically means we are entering in a brand new era of like society in 2027. So since we're getting closer and closer to it, the systems that aren't working and that aren't going to stick around are crumbling down. So seeing like the effects of the economy and the job market and things like that, it's kind of scary, especially because I've been affected by it. But from a human design lens, it's really exciting, because I'm like, okay, people are getting with the program, getting with the new paradigm, because on the other side of it, basically what will happen, it'll still take years and years, because we're going to be in like a century-long plus new era. But basically what will happen is everyone is going to be way more attracted and way more motivated into doing the things that are meant for them and be unapologetic about stuff like that. People are starting to question, wait, why am I doing this? Am I doing it because I want to, or am I doing it because society tells me I have to, or my parents told me I had to, or, you know, whatever it might be. So I think that's a big thing that's happening right now. And even though the midpoint of the change changes is really uncomfortable, especially a lot of us who are truly unhappy and are going to be the ones kind of like ushering everyone else into this new era. We're like the most uncomfortable because we have to do it first and bring everyone along with us, and the universe needs us to be uncomfortable so that we like actually get to it and start doing these things, like you starting a podcast and getting the voices of women business owners out into the world. Like things like that is so important because it's going to inspire other people and pull other people along with you and pave the way for this new paradigm. So that is the main thing I wanted to say. And then I forgot what the other point I wanted to make is. But
I'm sure as soon as we continue talking, it'll come up and you'll remember it. That's what always happens to me. I feel like when I do these interviews, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about. Oh, that's really interesting. I'm going to go there with this. And then it kind of ends up all over the place, but it ends up succinct at the end. Like, you end up coming to your points. But to talk about the new paradigm, which I can't believe, like, I couldn't figure out how to pronounce that earlier. I'm so embarrassed. But anyways, with the new paradigm, I have felt this such, like, to my core feeling of we are going to have a renaissance. We are going to have this new upheaval of religion, of spirituality, of life's purpose, and it's going to go beyond anything that I can even comprehend at this point in time. And I felt that way when I went to go visit Paris, and I went to the Louvre, and I was looking at all of the sculptures and all of the paintings, and I was like, when was the last time we had really placed this much value on art and devoted our life to something that we don't even see any monetary like return on in our lifetime? It's not until after a person died during the Renaissance that their paintings became valuable. And that, to me, I was like, we are not spending our time doing things that are really intrinsically motivating, and it's only for some sort of monetary gain, and we're not fulfilled. And you're seeing that everywhere, of like words like burnout, words of people saying that they're taking a hiatus or a mental health break, and I feel like all of that just is in a whirlwind of the new paradigm. And with that, like, how did you learn about the new paradigm? Was that something that came with human design, or is that something that was separate and you're like, wow, these two really connect?
No. So the new paradigm is a human design concept. Jenna Zoe talks about it a lot, and then the creator of human design, Ra Uru, has been talking about it since like the beginning. But in the 80s, 2027 was so far off, and here we are like 2 years from it, and we're starting to really see it coming to fruition. And yeah, with the Renaissance, the concepts of what's gonna flourish in the new paradigm has a lot to do with what we've seen in past renaissances, where art and creative pursuits are really valued. There's all sorts of like new jobs that are created and new ways to make money. And then another big theme will be like some of the themes from the Aquarian age, which is like the good people win, like good people who are putting out businesses and things like that will attract money and success. So yeah, we'll see that all play out. And the thing about a renaissance is so crazy because we're in a time where like there's never been an easier time to like get your work out there, and like you can do all sorts of things with art, like 3D printers, there's AI artwork, there's AI to help edit writing. Like it's never been easier to get your creative stuff out there, and then you have social media to put it in front of new people. So it's going to be a really exciting time. And one of the biggest things with human design that like even if someone doesn't look up their chart, what I would want them to take away is that human design teaches that you will find success and you will be able to find happiness the more that you follow your intuition and the more that you do the things that you love doing. And that looks a little different for each of the types, and then all the different pieces in your chart, it looks different, and you can get a lot more information if you look up your chart. But if there's one thing to take away, just like start pursuing the things you love and everything will fall into place.
Yeah. And I love that. And I love that with each, what is it, the 5 types, or is it 4 types?
There's 4 and 5. So generators and manifesting generators are one type. Okay. Manifesting generators are hybrid.
Okay.
Actually, I'll just explain a quick overview of each of the types so that everyone understands.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to get into.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
So starting with generators, so you have generators and manifesting generators. Together, they're 70% of the population. What makes a generator is a defined sacral center. So if you're looking at a human design chart, there's a square in the middle of the chart. That's the sacral center that rules creativity, life force energy. It also rules the gut organs and like your gut feeling about things. So generators can have different authorities, which is how you get in touch with your intuition, but all generators will have a strong gut feeling towards things. And the human design type also tells you how your aura is shaped. So all generators have an enveloping aura, which also can be like a magnetic aura. So generators, the more you are doing the creative things that you love, you're with people you love, you're energized by the things you're doing, the more that you can do that, the more magnetic you will be to opportunities, people, places, things like that. So generators wake up with like a full tank of that creative energy to use throughout the day. And if they're constantly doing the things that drain them, that they hate doing, they're going to lose that energy really quickly. Right now, there's a ton of burnt out generators because they're just not doing the fun things. Like they love music, but they don't have time and they're not doing it. So they're super burnt out. And then it's like this endless cycle. But for a generator, what's best for you and most healing is to actually like spend a little bit of energy on that thing that's going to give you energy. So that's generators overall. And manifesting generators are a hybrid type. They have a connection of the sacral center to their throat center. The throat center is the center of like communication. It's also the center of manifestation. It's where all of the energy comes out into the world, which makes sense. Like we communicate with the world with our voice. Manifesting generators have a little bit of the manifestor type, which I'll explain. At the end of the day, they're mostly generators, but the hybrid type is where the nuances come in of like being multi-passionate and being the type to like start and stop things really quickly and change their minds on a dime and move very quickly. And manifesting generators are really here to show us new ways of doing things, new efficiencies, because they are just meant to do things differently and have a bunch of balls in the air, and we can all learn from that. So that's generators and manifesting generators. And then you have projectors, which I'm a projector. Projectors have a penetrating aura. So we need to be invited in because we penetrate everyone else's aura and we can like really easily read their energy and understand who they are, what their energy is, what they need to hear. And that makes us very gift guides. So we're here to guide society. A lot of projectors end up as like therapists, coaches, sort of care roles, teaching, things like that, because projectors give the best advice, but with the penetrating aura, it can be really uncomfortable if you're not ready to hear it. So you're talking about your brother who is like trying to give you advice and he sees that you need to like find a path in your career, but you're not ready to hear that. It's not what you want to hear. You didn't ask him for it. So it doesn't, that exchange doesn't feel very good. So for projectors, it's really important that we get invited in and asked to share our insights, because it'll go so much better when we are asked to do that. And then you have manifestors. Manifestors are here to make an impact. They are here to get things started. I like to refer to manifestors as like the startup founder, if you're like thinking of the types as different people in the workplace. The manifestor is the one who has like the great idea and then gets it going, but they don't have sustained energy like generators do to create and do. So their purpose in society is to make an impact and get things off the ground and then bring in the other people to make it come to life. So with manifestors and generators, that's where the hybrid type comes in. So manifesting generators have that energy of like starting things and making impact, but then they have the generator energy to sustain it and keep it going. But that's kind of what gives the difference between a pure generator and a manifesting generator. There's one more type. I just want to make sure we don't forget them.
Yeah.
Manifestors are 8% of the population, and then reflectors are 1% of the population. So they have a completely undefined chart. So when you're looking at a human design chart, all the centers are undefined. So they're here to be the mirrors to society because they can experience the energy of everyone else. So reflectors, it's really important that they're putting themselves in the right environments and ones that they feel good in, because they reflect back the health of an environment. So a reflector who's in a very toxic environment is going to be getting sick all the time and really burnt out and things like that. But then a reflector who's in a great, healthy environment is going to feel amazing, be super successful, and things like that. So those are the 5 types.
Okay, and with the reflector type, like, what is their role in a job? Like, you mentioned that the manifestor is typically a startup founder, and that, which one are you?
Projector. So
Projector.
Yeah, so I'll give you the full analogy. I like to
Okay.
use like a startup as an analogy because I've worked in startups.
Love it.
I want to caveat before we dive into this, any type can do any job. Like you can do anything. This isn't to like put you in a box.
Right.
It just helps to explain the dynamics. So yeah, you have the manifestor. Manifestors are the only type that has ideas that come up from within them. Everyone else is just kind of responding to things in our universe. So manifestors, they have this amazing idea. They get it off the ground. They work in sprints. So they are like, when they have an idea, they're lights out to the world, heads down. I got to get this out there. And they work on it for like a few weeks and then they pass it off and they go into a rest cycle and let everyone else do the thing. So then the projectors are, because we can read people's energy and we're guides and we can understand group dynamics and things like that, the projectors are like the project managers or the kind of like confidants or like the group therapists, things like that. So they're the project managers because they can see everyone's strengths and weaknesses very easily and put everyone in the right place. And projectors are not really here to be builders and doers. That's the generators. So then the generators all come in and they're the engineers, they're the marketers, they're the salespeople. They're the ones who are like really making things happen and building the thing, creating getting it in the right hands, creating all the materials together in the right hands, things like that. And then the reflectors, I always like to use the analogy of, if anyone's seen the HBO show, I'm blanking on the name of it, but the startup HBO show.
Silicon Valley?
Silicon Valley, yes. So you know how the CEO has his right-hand guy who's like the guru who is always telling him like, oh, this is what is happening, these people are fighting, this isn't going well, this is going well. That's the reflector. So they are, in an ideal world, like this job doesn't really exist right now, but maybe in the new paradigm it will. In an ideal world, we would just have the reflectors be like in groups and telling us how they see it and like, okay, this isn't working, you need to do this, this is working, let's do this way, because they can, with most of their energy being blank in their chart, they can feel everyone's energy in their body. So they have a super unique perspective, and they a lot of times will have like hot takes and things that are uncomfortable to hear because they're here to mirror society back and bring us better ways of doing things.
Oh, that's cool. I would not thrive in that environment. That would be a lot. But that is really wild. I would love to see in the new paradigm having jobs on LinkedIn based solely on your human design, not on any sort of like certs or qualifications, but just like reflectors apply here or manifesting generators apply. That would be so interesting to see if a company would be able to be successful just on those metrics alone. Because I feel like if you are so deeply rooted in your human design, you're bound for success in a role that requires you to be more in your element. And that could be anything from marketing, sales, engineering for a manifesting generator, or it could be anything in the realm of like coaching or HR in the realm of a projector. So that would be really cool. Is that something that you would see happening in the new paradigm?
I don't think we'll see it in our lifetimes, just because like it takes so long to get this information mainstream enough to change employment laws. I'm pretty sure it would be illegal to make hiring decisions based on your birth time, just like with the way the laws are right now. I do know that there is some like small businesses or like people who have human design businesses that will want to hire like a generator assistant because they're a manifestor or a projector or reflector and they don't have that sacral energy. So it's definitely starting to happen. And one thing that I want to do like way in the future with this company is I want to go into companies and consult, and like not as much as a hiring tool, but more of like a development tool for companies to offer their teams like, hey, we're doing this cool human design workshop. You can learn how to use your human design, and have people opt into something like that. So I think stuff like that definitely could come to fruition. And there's a lot of businesses, especially with women, and there's a lot of businesses right now that are getting started and really going for like anti-hustle culture and new ways of doing things, and like more flexible schedules, and like being able to be a mom and still have your full-time job and things like that. So I think it'll definitely be more prevalent in the future in the workplace, but it'll probably start with the more businesses that are kind of like already in that spiritual space, or from more spiritual founders, things like that.
Yeah, and that you calling out that women are identifying more with this, I feel like that is something that I've also seen, is that a majority of the people that like I said, I've gotten into tarot, and that I have told that I see a psychic or that I go and get my tarot cards read, the people that are more accepting of that or are more intrigued and are like, oh wow, yeah, that's really amazing, I'm glad that that works for you, and that's really intuitive. Things like that, like those types of affirmations come from women, whereas the types of response that I get when I tell people, men specifically, my coworkers specifically, that I go and get my tarot cards read or that I go and see a psychic, they're like, what? Why? Like, why would you believe any of that? And I'm like, don't you read the Bible? Isn't it all just like what we are electing to resonate with us, and like if it works for you, it works for you? But I feel like this is a rabbit hole that I got down with the Renaissance era as well, and now the new paradigm, is that with this rebirth or like extreme dive into what spirituality is and what your purpose is in this earth, and I have just come to this realization that women have such strong female intuition, and that women are so deeply rooted in this knowledge and power and wisdom, and that is then translated into tarot, into human design, into all of these realms that are really hard to show any sort of like tangible proof, but when you provide me my chart, that seems tangible to me. And you'll get people that have feedback like, how can you believe that's real? How do you know that's real? And I feel like women are just being oppressed into thinking, well, that's not right because you can't show me tangible proof. Is that something that you have felt, or that you have ever had in the back of your mind, or like a devil on your shoulder of just thinking like, ugh, is this really true?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, well, first thing, I think women have gotten more in touch with their intuition because we've kind of been forced to for like safety reasons over generations, and then you're like absorbing all of the experiences your mother, grandmother, and generations before had. So I think part of us being more comfortable in these spaces is we have just been forced to be more intuitive, and we don't have the negative like effects of the patriarchy affecting us as much because we're not the patriarchy. But then men, it's a little bit harder to explore these things if they're not like exposed to it a lot and they're not comfortable with it because of principles of the patriarchy, like saying like, oh, that's just for girls, or that's not real, that's just mumbo jumbo, things like that. And then with human design, with intuition, there's actually 7 different authorities. So on your human design chart, your authority is your specific type of intuition. And there's 7 different ones, and they're all somewhere in the body. None of them have anything to do with like using logic or reasoning to make decisions. And I hope that more men start coming to me because I love being able to teach them about intuition, and human design is kind of like a scientific way of putting it because even though it's spiritual and it's based on your birth time, it's still kind of like science-y of a system. So for you have emotional authority, which is 50% of the population. Half the people listening probably have emotional authority. And emotional authority is basically you have a wave of understanding what's right for you or not. You are very in tune with your emotions, so you can feel through all of the emotions that come with a decision. So you'll start with the hell yeah, let's do it, let's dive in at the top of the wave, and then you'll go to the bottom of the wave and be like, oh, this doesn't feel right, I'm not doing this, I can't do it, it's a no. And then as time goes on, it gets a little bit, the wave settles down, it gets a little easier to discern whether or not something's right for you or not. With emotional authority, though, it's important to remember there's never 100% because you are so in tune and hyper aware with the ups and downs of a decision that even if something's settled and you're like 80% sure that it's a yes, there's still that 20% that's like, well, maybe it's a no. I can feel that it's going to really suck if it's a no. So it's hard to like discern. And with intuition, I think like in mainstream languages, it's like gut feeling or when you know, things like that. There's not a ton of language with like using your emotions as intuition. And that's 50% of the population. So it's pretty crazy with human design how much it like brings into perspective all these generalizations that we're giving in society. A lot of people do say sleep on decisions, which is what, emotional authority people should do at the very least.
Good.
Sleep on it, take a few days. Then you have generators can also have sacral authority, which is the gut feeling, and they can know in an instant whether something's right or wrong. And it's not going to be like it's not going to be intuitive like in their mind. It's going to be in their body. It's going to be a really strong feeling. They're going to be pulled towards something or pulled away from something. And it's harder to explain that because it's just a feeling in their body. And if they're not doing practices like meditation or yoga or even just walking and kind of like moving your energy around, it's going to be really hard to get in touch with what's in your body and what is just like stuff that you picked up from the outside world.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like with all of the information that you're able to collect from your chart alone of understanding whether you're an emotional decision maker or if you're a sacral decision maker, like those are things that you can then apply beyond just your career and apply beyond just what you do on a day-to-day, which I think that being able to become so understanding of what you need out of a career is super, super important because you spend so much of your life doing your career. But I also think that there's so much value to be added outside of that as well, and understanding what it is in your chart and how to make a decision. And maybe you're at a point in your career of maybe this is the right decision for me to take this promotion, or maybe this is a sign for me to leave. Like, have you encountered any of the people that have come to see you that are at a crossroads in where they're at in their career and they're kind of just like, okay, well, I don't know if this is moreover a decision in terms of should I continue my career here or go a completely different direction?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's when most people are like searching for something to help them in that decision, because like you said, yeah, your job is what you're doing the majority of your life and it's your livelihood, so it can be really scary to make a decision that's like very different from what you know and are good at and are used to. So I think pretty much everyone who's come to me is in a major trajectory of figuring something out.
Yeah.
I definitely get people who will do readings with me who are just like really interested in it and want to know about it. But I think most of us are dreaming of something else. And so I get a lot of clients who maybe they have a really great job, but they know it could be better and they just want a different job doing a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll also get clients who know that they want to not be in the corporate world and trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's something I really love. And then everything in between, like I worked with a generator earlier this year who was looking for marketing jobs, but then when I started asking her questions, she was like, I do not want to be working full time. I want the freedom and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, why don't you just get some freelance projects? Because she was just piecing together jobs to make ends meet and not super happy. She wanted the freedom to be able to travel and work from anywhere. So me just asking that question made something click in her, and she was like, okay, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And for any projectors listening, that's like our kind of strength is we're really good at asking questions. And it might seem so simple, but like me asking that question and reflecting back to her, like I could see her body like go into itself when she was thinking about like a full-time corporate job. She was like, no. But she kept applying. She had been applying to jobs and interviewing and stuff like that. So sometimes you just need a projector in your life to ask you the right questions and help you decide. But yeah, I get clients all over the place in their careers, and I have a ton of experience with job searching on my own, as well as like as a coach and with human design. So I do really love working with people who are just looking for something better in the corporate world, because there are some really great opportunities out there that exist. But I think a lot of people who are attracted to human design are typically the people who don't want to be in that typical 9 to 5.
Sure, yeah. And so when people are coming to you, they're getting their chart, and then tell me how a typical, is it called reading, would go? Okay, tell me how a typical reading would go.
Yeah, so for a reading, we really just focus on the basics, and we talk about your career a lot, but we also talk about where it might show up in your real life outside of your career. So my readings, to prep for the reading, I read your chart and I have an intake form about like, okay, where you're at right now, what are you struggling with, what are you dreaming of? And so that I have some context and can pull out some things that I'm like, okay, we can apply this to that. This will help there. This piece of the chart might answer some questions here. So when people are booking reading with me, typically they're brand new to human design too. So I take a lot of time to just like explain the chart, give the context of what we're looking at, and then I'll go through type, which also includes your strategy, your not self theme, and your signature. And then I'll go through your authority, which is what we talked about with your intuition, and then your profile, which is kind of like your personality. Some people refer to it as like the mask you wear to play on the stage of life. I like to also connect it to like the rising sign in astrology. It's kind of similar to that. It can also give you a ton of information on like how you learn and how you work and things like that. So those are like the big three, so that when you get into the world of human design and you're talking to people about human design, you'll introduce yourself as your type, your profile, and your authority. And then you also have all of the 9 centers. So each center rules a different energetic theme, as well as like it's connected to a physical part of your body. So we'll go through all of the centers, what they mean, and what it means for them to be defined or undefined. And, my readings are an hour and 15 minutes because it's really hard to fit all of that into an hour. And then also talk about like, how is this resonating? What is coming up for you? How can we apply this? I like my readings to be pretty conversational and like tactical with like, okay, how are we going to get you to where you want to be with this information? So yeah, that's what a typical reading is. And then I follow up with sending the PDF that I sent to you that will include all of the information. because I really want people to be present and not feel like they have to take notes. So then they have the PDF guide that they can refer to anytime. And a lot of times with human design, it'll take a couple times, like you look through it with a different lens. There'll be different things that resonate at different points in your life. So I love sending that resource as well so that people can come back to it all the time.
Yeah. And I feel like it's also super helpful because there are so many words that I don't know in that PDF chart of, okay, well, what does this mean? Let me go and like look that up and see like what that actually means. And there then has the image that I was referring to earlier of the infographic, but it's the image that you were depicting of how each one of those personas, is it, that correlates with the different parts of the body? What is that?
Energy centers.
Energy centers. And so those also were similar to chakras in my mind of, okay, so there's these energy centers that are also chakras. Okay, so let me connect those dots of like what I already know. And so that is just super helpful in general. And then the part to me that I was like, okay, I need more clarity on this, the lines. So I went through your TikTok today and you're like, I'm on my line 4, something like that. And I'm like, now what is this? This is a whole new realm that I need to unpack and understand of, okay, what does it mean to be in a line 4 and what does it mean to be in a line 6 and which one should I be in?
Yeah, so that's what I was referring to as the profile.
Okay.
It's kind of like how people see you, how people interact with you. And you are a 6-2 profile, so you're the role model profile.
Ooh.
There's 6 different lines, and then there's 12 combinations. So there's 12 different profiles, and everyone has 2 lines within their profile. Yours is a 6 line, which is a profile that has 3 distinct phases in life. So I think this will resonate a lot because it kind of has similarities to being a manifesting generator. But basically, from when you're born till you're 30 years old, you are in a 3rd line phase. So 3rd line is one of the profiles too. 6 is a very unique profile. The 3rd line phase, people who are 3rd lines live their whole life like this, but 6 lines is just the first third of your life. So 3rd lines are here to learn through trial and error. They're here to learn by just like bumping into life and trying things out and calibrating and experimenting and things like that. 3rd lines are the type of people who will have an IKEA box of furniture and they'll not even look at the instructions and they'll be like, you know what, let me just see how this goes. And then maybe it's not going well, so they look at the instructions, but then they're like, actually, I think it'll be more efficient if I build this half first and then this half first and then put them together. And even though it's outside of the instructions, they saved like 10 minutes. That is very 3rd line. So 3rd lines are here to like get their hands dirty, to be very comfortable with failure, because 3rd lines are here to just like try a bunch of different things, fail, and learn and iterate from there. And then 3rd lines are here to like show us that there's different ways of doing things and different ways of learning. So 6 lines, you spend your first 30 years just like learning through everything life has to offer and doing a ton of experimenting. And then from 30 to 60, ages 30 to 60, you go on the roof, which basically means you pull away and you really integrate all of the lessons that happened in the first third of your life. And then, so you might like be a little less social, you might be a little more discerning of the people you're hanging out with, like being with your closer community versus like a bunch of acquaintances. Not necessarily like full hermit mode, but like pulling away a little bit and integrating and like really deeply learning from that first third of your life. And then when you get after 60, that's when you enter into your full role model phase. So you are here to like learn all that stuff, integrate, and then after you're 60, you'll like fully blossom into this like amazing role model teacher. So you're going to be the like sage, wise, older woman who has all this rich life experience and all these great stories to tell that include life lessons and help to be a role model to the next generations. So that's the sixth line. And then the second line is the hermit line. So the hermit is very introverted. You probably really like being in your own space and you might need to be pulled out of it sometimes. Second lines typically can fall a little bit too hard into hermit mode because they forget how important it is to be around other people. So second lines have this like kind of savant element of like, there are things that you're really good at that don't feel like anything special because it comes so naturally to you and you don't have to practice at it. It's just this like random thing that you can do, whether it's like playing an instrument or writing or, you know, there's tons of things it can be. It's really important for hermits to come back and share their talents with the world because you need other people to reflect back to you that like, oh my God, this is amazing. You're really good at this, because since it comes so easily to you, it just seems like, oh, this is something everyone does. I'm not an amazing guitar player. This is just, everyone can play the guitar. But then you're in a crowd and you're playing for people and they're like, enthralled and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. What are you doing? So that's the second line. With second lines, like I said, it's really important that you share your strengths with the world and put yourself out there, because it's really easy to just be stuck in your own world because you love being in your own world. You're very comfortable in your own world, doing your own process and learning your own way. But you have really unique, special talents that need to be shared with the world.
Yeah. And just to give you some sort of affirmation, I feel like what you first said about being a third line of spending your first 30 years doing a lot of trial and error and experiencing life, that is definitely something that I have come to learn that I am currently doing. I am currently working back in corporate after working on a ranch, just so many different things that I am doing. But it is also very rooted in me that there will be a time when I move home and I have my own land and I live off my own land and I keep to myself and I talk to my family. And now the part about being a hermit, that is something that I have recently learned that I am more hermit-like than I had initially thought. So in college and in high school, I loved being the center of attention, which is definitely different than being extroverted, and I have come to learn that. So I'm very good at talking to people. I find it very easy to talk to people and relate to them, tell stories, things like that. And in high school, I thought that it was so easy to talk to people, and everyone was like, you're so extroverted, you can go and talk to anybody. I'm like, I'm tired. I really don't get energized from it. And then in college, I joined a sorority, and it was my image to be super extroverted, to be out there. And as I have become older, I have found myself leaning into, I don't really need to be a part of this relationship if it's not really serving to me. And I've been pulling back from a lot of different relationships and have already, at the ripe old age of 26, not necessarily 30 yet, have started pulling into that hermit mode and into that mode of what that second phase is in my third line, which is just so wild to see represented just based alone on my birth chart and on this human design ideology, and to give confirmation to this idea of that's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo of that's just astrology and how the stars align. I'm like, no, what I'm reading is what's happening, and it's not because I'm reading it.
Yeah, exactly. So the first part is the 6-line profile, and a lot of the 6 lines I talk to have always struggled with like not feeling like they're keeping up with everyone. And like one of my 6-line clients kind of mentioned, she was like, I've always felt like I was going to be a late bloomer. And then that was kind of like a permission slip of like, no, it's okay. You're on your own path. You're not going to really reach your peak until you're 60 years old. And that's just like how your chart, how your soul chose to come into the world. So yeah, I'm glad that resonated.
Yeah. Wait, so it's the 6th line, not the 3rd line? I was saying that wrong?
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. Okay. So you are a 6-line profile, but all 6-line profiles go through a 3rd line phase. So there's a 3rd line profile too. 6-line is the one like super unique profile because they have a phase of a different profile. So 3rd lines have that 3rd line phase, but that's their whole life. And then 6 lines have the unique withdrawal and then going on the roof and then being peak role model.
Yeah. Okay, so when you're saying that your soul chose to enter the earth at that time, and that's how you became who you are, talk to me more about that and what that really means. And does your mom play a role in that? Because she's the one that's creating you in a way. Like, how does all of that play into each other?
Yeah, so this gets a little heady. I think every soul chooses when to come into the world, and miscarriages are so sad and like horrible to think about, but when you think of it through the lens of like a soul choosing to come into the world, it kind of helps with things like that, because you're like, okay, well, for whatever reason that wasn't meant to be, because that soul wasn't ready or whatever. I am a big believer in like multiple lifetimes and past lives and things like that. The way I like to think about it, who knows if this is right or wrong, there's just like souls living up in heaven, and when they're ready, they choose someone to bring them into the world as their mother and father. And or not. There's a lot of different ways that babies come into the world now with IVF and all that stuff. And then even though there are a ton of different things that can happen at birth, like there can be scheduled inductions, there can be scheduled C-sections, there can be early babies that go through the NICU, there can be really late babies that have to get like interventions to get them out because it's no longer safe. Even though there's all those external things, I still think that the soul is choosing the exact timing of when that happens and kind of brings the circumstances about to make it happen.
Yeah.
And because charts can change by the minute, it truly is like divine when a soul comes into the world and chooses their chart.
Yeah. And that is such a good point to bring up, is the scheduled C-sections or premature birth. And that, like, have you had people come in that are a scheduled C-section and they know exactly, like, this is exactly what time I was born and it's not like an arbitrary time? Or has everybody that you've seen been a natural birth?
I actually have no idea. I haven't talked to clients about that. I just ask for their birth time and stress that it needs to be exact. Like, look at your birth certificate or ask your mom. So yeah, I guess I've probably had people all over the spectrum that I've talked to, because I've had my own clients, and I've been doing this I've been studying human design for like 8 years now. So anyone who I've met, I'm always asking for their birth time and telling them about their chart. So within that, there's got to be the full spectrum of different ways to come into the earth. But I haven't talked about it much.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because when we first started the podcast, you were saying that you haven't had anyone that's like, that's not really right. Like, everyone has given you an affirmation of like, oh, wow, that's really accurate. So it really doesn't matter what time, or not what time, but it matters what time. It doesn't matter how you came in at that time. But that is really wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love to think about this stuff, though, because it's just like, we have no way of proving how souls come into the earth, but like we have these systems that give us a lot of data that seem to correlate with like the time you come into the earth. It gives you these charts, whether it's human design or astrology or something else.
And you said you've been studying for 8 years. And what does that look like? Like, obviously, this must all be some sort of self-taught or reading from books or videos. Like, how have you done it?
Yeah, so I've done a little bit of everything. Basically, I heard about human design and went down the rabbit hole and never came up. So speaking of profiles, I have a first line profile, which is the investigator. And we have like an insatiable thirst for knowledge, and it can be applied to like random things. Like if I'm having a random health thing, I'm searching for hours on the internet for like, what are the Chinese medicine practitioners saying about it? What's Ayurveda saying about it? Like, I'll get into all corners of the internet trying to figure things out. But human design basically clicked for me from day one. And it's actually interesting. I had my birth time wrong because I asked my dad about it instead of looking at my chart or my birth certificate. And so when I first pulled my chart, I thought I was a generator with sacral authority, and I'm a projector with splenic authority. So there's like some similarities with that. Like gut feeling is kind of similar to splenic authority, which is like an unexplainable knowing. And then with being a generator, it didn't last very long because I quickly burned out, but and then I figured out I was a projector and everything clicked for real. But I took a lot of the principles of like doing the things that light you up and things like that, and it did help. And then just knowing I'm a projector changed everything. But yeah, basically from day one, I just had to know everything there is to know about it. And I've studied from a little bit of everything, listened to tons of podcasts. 8 years ago, there was not much on social media. There was only a couple people posting about it. So I would like go through hours of Instagram posts, Pinterest things. I was also like extremely broke at that time, so I really wanted to do some courses, but I just could not afford it. So I bought some books and just started reading anyone's chart who would let me. And then over the years, I've done like different mini courses and workshops and things like that. And then last year, I knew I'd always wanted to like do a certification, even though I knew I didn't really need it. I just wanted that foundation. For science, it's really important to have a foundation, and then it's also really important to feel super confident because you're hyper aware of what you don't know because you're just like so into learning. So it took me a long time to like feel confident sharing it with the world. But I did Erin Claire Jones's Blueprint certification, and she's one of the OG human design teachers who I found from those initial days of like looking for any podcast I could listen to and things like that. So I did that full certification last year, so I'm now fully certified. I've loved learning from a ton of different perspectives. From like, I have the main human design textbook that is written by Ra Uruhu, the guy who started human design. And then I also have some of the more like new agey human design books, like Jenna Zoe is kind of considered new age human design, and she really teaches things in a very simple way. She has different words for things that make a little more sense to different people. So I've loved getting bits and pieces, and then it helps a lot with readings because I can tell when someone is the type of person who wants to know everything and know like the actual facts and like how does this work and things like that. And then the people who are like, I just want the insights, and I can really tailor that in my readings or conversations I'm having or coaching and things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then with, obviously it's similar to astrology because you're using the stars and the birth time and all of that. Is that also a factor into like romantic partners and like self-development and that whole realm?
Yeah, you can apply human design to all areas of your life. Human design is not a like compatibility tool. Like you can look at a relationship chart. Basically, you put the two charts together and you see how they connect. There's a lot of people out there who do those types of readings. But one of the biggest things for me is like anyone can be compatible with anyone else. Human design is a great tool in understanding the differences and similarities. And it's helped me a ton with my own relationship. I've been with my fiance for 6 years, and I was the weird girl who literally on day one, I asked him to text his mom for a birth time. We were like at a loud bar. We were at Metal Arc in Denver, and I don't even know how we got on the topic, but I was like, I need your birth time right now. So he knew what he was getting into from day one. And then I had asked him that for astrology because I thought it would be too weird to say human design. So as soon as I got home, or the next day or whatever, I looked up his human design. And he's a manifesting generator, and he's also a third line. So, and I am the type of person who likes to stay with a plan. Like, I like things to be very planned out. I like to know what to expect. And a manifesting generator is very spontaneous, and they like changing plans last minute. So I am truly not sure if we would have made it out of the dating phase. I mean, I'm sure we would because he is my soulmate, but it would have been a lot more challenging because understanding that he's a third line manifesting generator and he's just going to want to do a lot of different things and be spontaneous helped so much. Like we had, for our first 4 or 5 dates, we had a plan like a week in advance of like something we were going to do. Like, okay, let's just stay in and watch a movie. And then an hour before, he's like, hey, actually, you want to get Broncos tickets and go to the Broncos game? And so instead of like freaking out about it and worrying about like not mentally preparing, I was like, this is just the way he's going to be, and I'm just going to roll with it. And I have so much fun with him, and it hasn't worn off 6 years later. And he's not like super into human design. He lets me like tell him things about it and tell him things about myself, but it just helps me understand him and not get frustrated when he changes his mind a bunch or like spontaneously wants to change plans or tries a bunch of different things.
Yeah. I mean, that totally makes sense. The more that you know about your partner, whether it has to do with human design or astrology or just what their favorite food is, like life becomes that much easier because you have this new code unlocked of, okay, I know this much more about this person, and therefore I can know how I'm going to react, and therefore I can know how I can be prepared to be in a scenario where we're planning on staying in, but we're going to go out to the Broncos game.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big examples, because generators are 70% of the population, there is the stereotype of like, you ask someone what they're hungry for and they're like, I don't know. That is because generators need something to respond to. So like if you're a non-generator dating a generator, the best thing you can do is start asking yes or no questions and not getting frustrated when you're asking open-ended questions and not getting an answer. Like I'll ask my fiance, what do we need from the store? And be like, I don't know. But if I come to him with like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, this, and this week for dinner, is there anything you want to add or change? Or if I just give him 2 ideas of like, we can either have tacos or pasta for dinner tonight, that goes so much better than just like, hey, what do you want to eat?
Yeah, I could see that. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like as a manifesting generator myself, I would like to see like a multiple choice answer as opposed to an extended response, because I could really fill in anything on the extended response and it's going to use a little too much brain power. I'd rather just give me my 4 options and I'll just select the one that fits the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that with yourself too. Like you can give yourself 2 options and see what you have a like gut response to in your body. Even though you have emotional authority, all generators have that gut feeling in their sacral center. And that's a really great way to like figure out what's right for you and kind of like practice using human design in real life too.
Yeah. Okay, so with all of the human design that you've learned and how you've applied it in life, what do you think has been the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome in this journey of becoming, would you call it a coach or what would you call yourself?
So I introduce myself as a human design reader and coach.
Okay.
And I also work full-time as a HR generalist, so we're very much in the middle phases of making this my real thing.
Yeah. But if we're manifesting it into existence, we're calling you a reader. Okay.
Yeah. Reader
so what would you
and
say
a career coach.
Career coach. Okay. So as a reader, career coach, what has been like the largest obstacle in making this a reality for you of I'm going to decide to make this a business. I'm going to see people and people are going to seek me out for this service.
Yeah. So this is something I talk about a lot on TikTok, especially. Anyone who isn't a generator is a non-sacral type, and people who don't have consistent access to that creative energy can have a really hard time getting creative projects off the ground, being consistent with working on things. And the consistency has been the biggest obstacle because us non-sacrals just really are not here to work a ton. But there is this period that you kind of have to go through of working a lot to get to the point where you don't have to work that much.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest obstacle has just like been mental blocks. I was laid off during COVID and I was like, okay, this is the time I'm going to try and make my own business and make this happen. So me doing this now is actually round 2. And I tried so hard, but I wasn't consistent and I couldn't get over the hump of like, you have to take small actions all the time. and you're going to have that period where you're not really seeing results. So then I jumped full-time back into corporate, and I kept telling myself, oh, I don't have the energy to do it anymore. Like, I'm so tired. I can't get on with clients at night. I can't make content at night, things like that. And then basically what kind of changed that for me is starting to think about the future and what I want the rest of my life to be like. Like, I cannot imagine myself as a parent, like, missing a bunch of my kids' stuff because I have meetings and I have to work and I have to fit in working after they go to bed because I had to log off early to pick them up from school and stuff like that. Like, I just cannot imagine having a family with a full-time job. And that is kind of what clicked and motivated me to, like, keep doing things and keep building now. And it'll start paying off in the future. That would be my biggest advice to anyone, is like, you just have to keep taking those small actions. But for projectors, manifestors, and reflectors, it's even harder because you don't have consistent creative energy and you have to push through. You can't just wait to feel inspired, because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna want to rest. Like, all we want to do is rest. So yeah, that's kind of where that has been.
Yeah, I feel like resting has gotten a really bad rap the last, I don't know, maybe 20 years of, like, people being like, oh, it's lazy to rest. And now it's taking this new turn of rest is needed, rest is good, you should rest. And I love that it's coming back around to that, because although now I know that I'm a manifesting generator, so I love working, which is true, I feel like the part about rest for me has always been like, yeah, I don't want to rest. Like, I don't feel energized when I do rest. And so that to me made so much sense, especially reading the chart and getting into that information. But I feel like that is also such good advice in general for everyone, including manifesting generators, because with podcasting, there are lulls of people not engaging, people not listening, and it's easy to be like, well, I'm going to toss in the towel, move on to the next venture. So how do you feel like when you have someone come in and they're like, I have this idea, I've been doing it for a while, how do you recommend that you should keep going, or maybe you should go down a different path? Is that part of human design, or is that part of maybe or I guess that would be part of it if you're looking at the different lines?
Yeah, so there's different pieces of your chart that can kind of, like, give you some information to make those decisions. At the end of the day, the biggest one is your authority. So your authority is your intuition. If something is not right with your authority, then it's a no. And then there's other things, like, for a generator, if your energy isn't in it and it starts feeling really draining, like, say you're putting out all these past episodes and you're just not getting energized from it, even though maybe you are getting some engagement, or you're talking to really cool people and you're just feeling totally drained and you can't find the energy to do it, then that would be like a sign to not do it. And then each type has their not self theme, which is a really good barometer for, okay, I need to rethink things. So for a generator, it's frustration. For a projector, it's bitterness. For a reflector, it's disappointment. And for a manifestor, it's anger. So of course, as humans, we feel all of those emotions, but for each type, your not self theme is kind of your, like, alarm bells of, like, okay, things need to change. For me, as a projector, I started getting really bitter about people who were finding success in the same things I was looking for. So, like, seeing people who launched their coaching business and then they're like, hey, I'm quitting my first full-time job today. I would get so bitter, and, like, you feel really bitter shows up as, like, jealousy a lot, and just like, why isn't this person having this? And then, like, frustration for generators, it'll feel like roadblocks, like you're not getting anywhere, you're just constantly not moving forward, and you get frustrated too because you can't, even though you used to get your energy behind something, you just, like, can't find it anymore and get your energy behind it. So those are a couple things to look at. And then there's a lot with the centers too, which is too much to get into now, but you can look at, like, your undefined centers are where you're picking up from the outside world. So maybe you're, like, picking up conditioning that's, like, kind of keeping you from making the changes you need to make. And then your defined centers are where you have consistent energy. So it's good to look at those and just kind of see, okay, what's mine and where am I picking up things from the outside world.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I love everything about the human design. I'm definitely going to research on my own about it because there's just so much information that you can unlock of just what you have inside of you. And there's just seemingly this predisposition of what everyone has when they come into this earth. So, Morrie, thank you so much for coming on. If you could please plug your information so that everybody can know where to find you or how to reach out to you or how to get their chart read and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, so my handles on everything is careers in HD, and then my website is careersinhd.com. I have a chart generator on there, so you can pull your chart from that website, and then you can also book readings, and I also do discovery calls for coaching because I'm figuring out what my coaching packages are going to be and what I want to do. So right now I'm just doing a bunch of experimentation.
Amazing. Well, Morrie, I'm sure I could talk to you for hours about this, and I definitely could. But thank you so much for coming on. I'm so glad that we could connect via TikTok and all of that fun stuff. But thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to explain to me what all of the different realms of human design are and correcting me when I say things wrong. And
great meeting you, Sarah, and I'm looking forward to watching your journey as you rebrand, and I'm really excited for you.
Thank you so much.